Hi, let's start with BTC. So, compared to last week, this is totally a different week, a green week, I would say. Um, First of all, the bounce. This was so perfect bounce. I mean, this was so decisive. We had a couple of Zoom call where I mentioned how important this is, and one video including the risk management and how one could manage the risk using these supports and so on. And I also mentioned that anyone who thinks that ignores this move and ignores this level and do nothing as far as planning is concerned would regret. And also the one who would sell everything in panic and assume that it is going to break down because the whole entire world is talking about breakdown. So it is so natural after having so long prolonged consolidation. There is no way to think otherwise but to think about downside move. And so that was another extreme that I had highlighted, that it's very hard to tell yourself that no, this is the level where, I mean, you have to, I mean, this is the critical level, but not necessarily the breakdown scenario. So, and now this is the reality. You see how this pump was. This is like one day it pumped a lot. The reason could be anything. It doesn't matter, and the reasons are always going to be different every other day. History doesn't repeat, and reasons are always going to be known later, not necessarily beforehand. So anyway, so the point is, I talked about two extreme approaches, and I think those who would now see and relate now, those statements make more sense, because anyone who assumed and sold everything would be regretting for sure. Anyone who ignored this drop and did not sell would actually would be under pressure during this downturn, right? So when the support was failed, this failed, this failed, this failed, and so on, if someone could simply reduce by little bit amount, then feel so good in a case where it would continue going down, because then there was opportunity to buy back. And those who had held up, it's not a problem, because now outcome is this. But the point is, if the outcome was negative, then would have saved a lot, right? And anyone right now in this scenario, so the best approach is always incremental approach. And I talked about various scenarios. Anyone who is starting new or got new money, I would say the same, that even though there is a bounce, each step could be, these are like, this is like a staircase where each step could be stepping stone, where you could add more or plan that way. So these levels are so important. You can use it for your planning if you think that this makes sense. Now, even while it is climbing up, you see how it is reacting. So first of all, this support did a wonderful job. 29288, a magic number or level, which eventually gave us the rise. And that's what happens. See, support provides bounce, but not all bounce reaches required height. And there is always one bounce, I mean, there is always one support where it changes the trend, right? And you would never know. Nobody knows. If everyone would be knowing that, then nobody would lose, or there is no game. Basically, there is no trading. Then there is no buyer and seller, right? There's one-sided game, so it never happens like that. However, knowing the support is the key thing. But how that support or that bounce will turn up is not nobody's hand. But at least that gives us the level where we could plan and observe the bounce and height and so on, and then do require adjustment to our plan. So when you have a support, you can anticipate a bounce or some kind of reaction. The reaction could be simply up, stop. It could stop falling. It could pause a bit. It could consolidate a bit. and then continue going down, or give a bounce. And then if it gives a bounce, then you have to observe the height of the bounce. And on this channel, every day I provide that update, and that's how you would know that the bounce has strength or not, or any kind of weakness, and so on. And that's how it works. The support is never the absolute level where you will say, okay, this is the ultimate defense. It never happens like that. And that's how it works. So this support worked out now, and I used to say, you'll find out that it which one worked out in retrospective way. So this is now we are looking back in 3 4 days in past and see, okay, now you know what, this is the support we were looking for. But hindsight, we would not know that this is going to be the support which would end up with this kind of bounce. Now we are seeing it, and it is always like that. And the same thing happens when there is a top condition. You cannot say this is the top, but when it starts falling and failing at a critical level, and then not able to regain its level. If we go back in past, let's say, for a brief moment, and then you will see this is a top, then this is another top, then this is on a new top, and then you decline, and then it failed, and this is where the alert was raised, because it failed to reclaim this top. And so you are not going to know that this is the top. We had raised alert here as well, and second alert raised was at this level. Why? Because it failed to retain its height, and it was bending, so of course the downside pressure was higher. So that kind of and similarly, so that was the top, and this is how you identify top. I mean, not that, oh, it reached here, this is the top. No, it's not. It's impossible. Similarly, when it went down, we said, okay, now this is a good bounce, it's going to retest. We were expecting a retest, and there were a couple of retests, and this was the important point where we thought it could break down, because of course it broke down. I mean, broke below 30K. So this cannot be taken lightly. We were on high alert, but we had amazing bounce. And then when it rejected at 4 or 4.2, we realized that the height was not good enough. We always knew that this is not the height we wanted to see. We want higher high, 42K or something like that. And when it was started declining, then again, we were on alert, and in a way alert was never disabled though. But the point is, during the call I had highlighted. So if you look at all these events and put together, it's a great lesson learned how you would manage, or how you would interpret the alert, how you have to have a longer term horizon to take a decision, in terms of, like, you cannot just decide that, okay, I want to all in or all out. It's always progressive and incremental. So I think, whatever, like 3 4 months could be a great lesson, in my opinion, if you put together everything, and that will help you a lot in future, because you have seen the top, you have seen the really deep um, drop, which is usually not the case with BTC. Usually 30 40% correction keep happening during the bull run, but because there was no major correction, it ended up with, there are multiple reasons technically, that this would not have happened probably if it had gone through some 30 40% correction in past. It didn't happen. It was due, and then this is what happened. And another thing is, technically 200-day moving average was also critical, and somewhere over here it broke above and then broke down, because some bots are designed for 200-day moving average, and they are very sensitive about it. So when it broke, it just collapsed, and when it collapsed, the it takes time to rebuild, because then the negative sentiments kick in. It's a chain reaction. Once there is a major collapse, then there is no way to put there's no one dares to put new money, and they wait, and that's how it goes into sideways move, and that kind of pressure it builds on the downside. That's what we have seen. But it's always good, as a trader, to see all this. If somebody has seen other, I mean, previous bear, then it's good. But many of the members could be new in this game. It's a good thing to learn that how things could change, and it's not about one day decision, but it requires planning. how different alerts can be taken into consideration, how you and when I talked about, remember I always talk about go slow, go slow. This is what I mean. Go slow, it simply mean that no matter how much money you have, if you put money in increment, you're not going to burn your hand compared to anyone who tries to go aggressive, because the coin doesn't go to the moon as Twitter or other social media platform tells. There's always a time, there's enough time to plan and act. Even though someone who has very narrow or short term vision would be FOMO, end up FOMO thinking that they lost and they're missing out, and again try to be aggressive. And I would say the same. Though this is amazing bounce, I would not say this is out of the wood. Of course it requires higher level, right? And anyone who has money would may end up doing the same mistake. I mean, this is a great relief. But if anyone thinking about, um, you know, risk free trade and all that, and this is going to the moon at this moment, is making a mistake. So this is not about pessimism. This is still this is based on technical levels. So here, I was not thinking about breakdown, but looking for a bounce at the support, and we got it. So I would like to be just one step ahead in the game. I'm though I can project 100k, 200k, and I have done it sometime, but I don't track that way. So we are open minded, but at the same time we know the ranges. So if it is going up, where it is heading, and if it is going down, where it could go down, up levels point of view, price level point of view, and so on. But the my approach is always like, just try to be a step ahead in the game, right? And that's enough, and that's always enough, and you don't need to think about beyond. So when I say step ahead means what? Means, see, we have these levels right now. I turn off the alert because there is no immediate risk. But let's say if we know this levels, it's going to react. You see how it reacted at S4.4. It took time, consolidated. To me, this was very critical level. After this one, this saved us from the downside move, and this one um, indicated that it is not just one of bounce, but a real bounce where it really wants to climb up. And of course, where it paused as 4.3, it's not a random number. This was not a random number. This is not a random number. It is taking time for a reason, for technical reasons, of course. And this is, no matter what you say, this is following technicals. You have seen over time how technical levels are playing roles here. I don't know the reason, but it works, and that matters. And I don't try to find out why, but it works. Technical levels for Bitcoin have worked and still working. Now, of course, you see a very positive consolidation here, very positive. Now here you will see another reaction. Another point, that is why this is also important, that if you draw a trend line, very simple trend line, you can do that by your own. See, it has broken, right? So it has broken above, and then so this is also significant, that I used to talk about dome structure, remember, in the previous call. So it has broken the dome structure. Now this pattern is invalidated, and that's how it happens. See, when the patterns are always created and invalidated or completed, of course. So whether it breaks in between or it ends up with it, and with a positive outcome, right? Now, l- I think in last call I mentioned that this is a downturn. This is a dome structure where this could be the level, this could be the level, because there is a range, right? It could have stopped here, 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 and here. So we got this one, and then I said we could expect a move on this one, which is like a symmetry in a way. I think I covered in last call, and probably I didn't keep the drawing, but it was like this. Of course, there's a dome structure. I would just make it this, and now this is what we are expecting. So this is what is happening. Okay. Now when I drawing, I should draw only up to this one. Right now it is here. We are expecting. Why? Because this is S4.2. this pattern that I'm talking now could also break, or at S4.2. So that's what happens when price, where you have to take one time frame, like say this is a 1 day time frame. Patterns vary at different time frame. Ta has to choose what time frame you want to track, and it's not just one time frame which gives you the clear idea what is happening. You have to club different time frame and different patterns together and put together and say, okay, which side is being more. And that's how you conclude, because sometimes you are getting some contradictory indications in terms of direction, up or down. And then ultimately you have to say, okay, up or down. So decision is, I mean, the outcome is only one of these two, up or down. But and there not necessarily all the indicators are indicating the same direction, or pointing to the same direction, and ta has to just pick one, right? So that's sometimes the challenge, and recently a lot of challenges like that. So let's say if this is 1 day scale, I briefly talked about that this is, people are talking about head and shoulder, this is left hand side, this is right hand side, and I said when this bounce, this pattern was invalidated. So the TA has to know when the pattern is actually being invalidated. Means when I say invalidated, means when the pattern is completing, whether complete in terms of complete or incomplete completion. In a way, so if this pattern, let's say, breaks down, then this completes here. If it goes up, then also it completes, right? So in a sense, the outcome in this case was not a breakdown, so it is complete. Even if it would have broken down, then the head and shoulder would have completed with downside no. That's what I mean. So the point is, uh, at this stage the head and shoulder was done, means the right hand shoulder was complete. Now it didn't go down but up. That means the pattern is anyway complete, the outcome was up. Okay. And anyone who was tracking head and shoulder, I don't know why, but then I would not track that pattern, for me is gone. Then I realized, then it is about a new pattern, because this was a bounce, and this could have actually gone up, but then it stopped here. Second time it stopped, and when it was forming this, it was clearly a sign of a dome kind of an arch kind of a structure, like what you saw here. It's a bigger like, this is a larger dome structure, arch kind of a structure. You see this one like banding, it's like a curve, banding curve. Similarly, I realized that when it was making these tops, it was clearly making, if you look at the outer edges, it was like making an arch in a clear way. So it was, you what you expect is this is going to continue. The angle of the arch could vary, but you would expect this arch to be broken for it to break the pattern, right? So the pattern could end in two ways: one, the way we are seeing right now, or if it could have gone down, then also it would break. I mean, complete, not break, right? So that's what happens. So for me, as I said, I was focusing on this local pattern. I was not looking at any outside pattern like beyond this wave. My focus was only this area, where the bigger picture for me, it was the channel, this descending channel. And within that, I was focusing on this mid area, left hand side and the right hand side, which was, as I said, it was not symmetrical. So I was just focusing that if this is the left, this is the downturn, this is kind of in mid part, and then we should see upside if it has to bounce. So this was a point of decision. That's why these levels were critical, because then it could have touched down this one, then this pattern would have broken in a negative way, and or complete in a negative way as an outcome. Okay, so that's this is how I was seeing things. Just wanted to share what was going on, right? I mean, most of the stuff I mentioned here today was also mentioned, but I just put together again, just in case you didn't get chance to go through previous session. Anyway, so now, um, now we are at S4.3. It's taking its time. um, if it fails here, right, and starts coming here, still it can survive S.4. But as then again you have to think about your risk management. You cannot, you have to start acting. I mean, I'm not consulting you or suggesting, but point is again assuming that okay, you know what, it just small retracement, nothing is nothing is and there's no risk or something like that. No, I mean, don't do that. If it starts going down, remember these supports can be your input to your planning, and then you can take appropriate action, but always in increments, in gradual manner. Never be in a panic mode, right? But it's not happening, so we're not talking. But just in case, if this level fails and start doing this, then what will happen is I said this is a trend line, this one, but simply then it will create another trend line like this. So the trend line is give you some idea, but it's not a confirmation. But it will just say that okay, now we have surpassed one hurdle, and then we are on a second hurdle, and there could be third one, and so on. That's how it works. Okay. uh, so we had each level, in a sense each level is a checkpoint. Each support is a point of review, that okay, this is an exam or approval. Say this is like, these are all first approval, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. So you may take this as an approval, and then I would say it has to reach 42K, means it has to go, pass this S4 for it to come out of this eventually, right? And then there is one more at 48K, which I removed it. I'll probably add back, but I think I'll add back 48K level. Anyway, so the most important is 42K, and then 48K is a minor thing, and we are now heading towards those levels, looking very positive, right? So in summary, each level you have to take as a point of review and make sure that it is breaking above. If it breaks above, then we can say it is, clearing this hurdle one after another and heading for the upside, like higher level, original higher, I mean previous high, all-time high. So yeah, your so these are confirmation in increments. Let's look at I'll hide the drawings and look at zoom out to see how the weekly looks like now. The weekly looks amazing. This is the candle we wanted to see. The last good candle was on this the June 7th week. All the other candle were not so good. These were like indecisive totally. This was like resetting the gain, and this was a surviving candle where this is a lifeline. To me, this is the lifeline. This is the most important because of this structure, right? This was a, if it had to go down, it would have gone down here actually from here on, but it didn't. But when it came so close, then again we had to be on high alert, of course. But if it had to go down, actually it had to, it could have, this was the level and this was the day. It didn't happen. Anyway, so this is awesome. It's very strong looking weekly candle, and it is heading up. This is Saturday and still it's active, and some of the oils we could see that they are pumping, and they're taking turns if you notice. So, and in past I used to say I'll cover the oils. I should not start that, in fact, so I'll reserve for the oil session. Anyway, so weekly is looking good, no doubt about it, right? So you can see that if this candle comes to this level 37, then it is much better, right? And if it comes to 42K, then you can say okay, now we are out of this mess, right? Because then 42 level is somewhere here, and that's pretty safe level, right? And this 48K that I'm talking about, which is orange line, right? This is the level where if it can break above this level, then we're talking about new all-time high. It's as simple as that. We can have a quick look at the monthly. Monthly is still weak, um, but it's going, I mean, it's away from the low, so that's a good thing. Again, if you look at this one, 42k wide is important, because then it will be higher than this high, monthly high, right? So that's another way to look at it, right? So that's why. And of course it will be a nice green candle. It's not going to happen, today is 24th, so we'll have next month, so the August month. So we'll have some nice U kind of a structure, in my point of view, like this. Because this, let's say, would end up somewhere here, assuming in next 6 days, and then the new month will start here and then continue going up, and then we'll say kind of a U shape recovery here. So that's how it looks like on a monthly scale. So this is getting better, but still it's not so good on a monthly scale, but not a problem. Weekly is good, which is good news. And one day is looking really good. We saw that in detail. So I think that ends the BTC session.